Hello everyone, this is James Shore with another test-driven JavaScript video. I'm recording this on September 17th, 2012. And last time we recorded was about a week ago, and when we left off, we were trying to get our application deployed to Heroku. And as a first step to that, Heroku being the online web host, platform as a service host, and as a first step for that, I was trying to get the smoke test modified to work in the same way that Heroku does. Now, Heroku comes with this tool called Foreman, where if we run Foreman start, it will actually start our application in the same way that Heroku will. And that is controlled by a file called procfile that says what are the names of the servers we're going to run and what command is used to start them. So I want our smoke test to use that exact command. I want it to read the procfile and run that command. And everything works great when we run it from the command line, but when we run our smoke test and we have it running Foreman start, it doesn't work. And oh man, I spent hours and hours and hours trying to figure this out. Oh my God, I spent so much time trying to figure this out. It turns out that Heroku has a lovely feature that if you are outputting to if you're not outputting to a terminal, Foreman will not output anything. It will buffer it in, I think, for performance reasons, and like that. So it's actually outputting stuff, but it's buffering it. So, and this is actually fairly common Unix behavior and frustrating Unix behavior. So there is a workaround for it. There's a command in Mac OS called script, and in most Unix systems, that will copy everything that you do to a file. So what we can do is tell it to copy everything we do to dev null, in other words, throw it away, don't write it to a file, but it will trick Foreman into thinking that we're on a terminal. So I can run Jake like this, and it will fail because Foreman's not writing anything out. And of course, our test is waiting for it to say server started. Or I can write this. I can say run script with the command line of dev null Foreman start. And now everything works just fine. So great, right? Problem solved, right? No, it doesn't work on Windows. Windows doesn't have script. And also, when you run Foreman on Windows, you get all kinds of Ruby errors. So I am not feeling too happy about Foreman. And maybe it's because I spent days, I mean, actually, not just hours, days trying to figure this out. It took me hours to figure out that it was the TTY problem. And then it took me hours more to figure out how to fake the TTY. And then it took me hours more to try to figure out how to make it work on Windows. I submitted a bug report to the Foreman folks, and they have fixed it. I don't know if it's in the Heroku distribution yet, but there's another problem here, and that is that Foreman is a dependency. And you know, it's kind of funny. The Heroku guys have this great sort of manifesto called the 12-factor app, saying that, you know, what are all the things you should have to have a good web app. And I love it. It's a really good thing. And number two, explicitly declare and isolate dependencies. So, but in order for us to run our application, we have this dependency, Foreman, which you have to install separately. So, to make a long story short, I don't want to use Foreman. It doesn't work well. And and also, it doesn't work on Windows, and it's a dependency that you have to install. And I really don't want to have any dependencies. I want, if you're going to run, you know, if you're going to build this application, I want you to be able to install Node, install Git, and be done. So I'm going to make this optional for deployment only. So what I'm thinking is that rather than running Foreman, so the reason we run Foreman is because on Heroku, although I haven't tried this, but according to the documentation, on Heroku, it's going to look at this procfile. And this is the actual command that we use to run WeWikiPaint. And this is not tested. So if I came along and I, accidentally, just without even realizing it, accidentally changed this, our test would still run fine if we don't test that. So we need to test that. But Heroku doesn't use Foreman. Foreman isn't the production thing that Heroku is using. It's just using the proc file. So what we need to do is test the proc file, not actually run Foreman. Foreman is just a convenience. So what I'm thinking is that rather than dealing with Foreman, because that's a dependency and because it's got this logging issue which has been fixed, but I don't think it's been released yet, at least not in the Heroku tool belt. Rather than do that, I think what I would like to do is just parse the proc file. And that sounds like a big project, but it's not actually. We're not going to rewrite Foreman. We're just going to parse our proc file. So that's what I'm thinking. So let's try that. So that's the plan. Let's do it. So what I'm thinking is instead of saying child process.spawn, let's do this. We'll say command line equals parse proc file, and that can just do its own thing. And then here, and to start with, because we do have this working, let's go ahead and put this back. We'll make it do script. Actually, no, let's have this call node source server wiki paint. Okay, so that should work. No, it doesn't. Oh, do we have a... All right, what's going on here? Oh, haha. Yes. Foreman uses port 5000. There. So that works. So now what I want to do is make a little function to parse the proc file. And to start with, let's just have it return what we're going to get out of the proc file, which is that. And of course that should work because we're not doing anything with it yet. And now we should be able to say command line 0 and then command line dot, there's a way of splitting an array. I don't remember what it is at the moment though. I think it's slice. Yeah, so we should be able to just say command line slice 1. I hope that works. No. All right. I'm doing something dumb here. Okay, I'm back. This was dumb. Yeah, this is a function, not an array. But JavaScript, being the wonderful creature it is, said, sure, I'll let you think of that as an array. And of course, it was returning undefined. So this should work now. There we go. So yeah. So that's working. Now we just need to emulate this. What we actually need to do is we need to read that file, and we're going to read proc file. That should do it. Let's see what happens when we do that. Yeah, of course, it's not defined. Okay, it returns a buffer. So now we need to tell it to read that in UTF-8. Oh, help if I put that command in the right spot. Okay. That looks like it's working. So now we need to parse out the actual command, and we need to split it into its component pieces. And I think the way to do that is to use a regex. So what we want to do is we want to say procfile.match, which is the command for a regex, and then our regular expression. Regular expressions are kind of mysterious if you don't know them already. What I'm going to say is we're going to start with the beginning of the string. We're going to look for the word web, followed by a colon, followed by arbitrary white space. There it is. White space is \s. That's any white space. So the word web can be followed by any amount of white space, followed by not white space, any amount of at least one or more character of not white space, followed by any amount of white space, and that whole thing is going to be repeated multiple times until the end. Yeah, clear as mud, right? Sure. So let's make a comment here. This is web foo bar baz. I think. I don't know. We will see. So let's go ahead and write out what we've got with our matches. That's going to return an array to us, or maybe an object with all kinds of information in it. So let's see what happens. Oh, and we need to close our function. Okay. So that's not quite what I was expecting. So next time, we're about out of time. So next time we're going to continue on. We're going to parse this proc file, and then we will get this thing up on Heroku. So thanks for watching, everybody. I will catch you next time.